welcome everyone. I really appreciate you coming, whether you're experiencing this class now or revisiting it later. I hope some fruitful contemplations, something just to maybe approach things at a different angle. I do want to honor that I'm on Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota lands, occupied lands, and especially for this class finding ground, it would be good to figure out whose lands you're on as well. I can post that link in the chat at the end and make sure it's sent out so you can see whose Indigenous lands you are on. And also just that folks are having a hard time right now. As Brian Levy Sensei mentioned, there's hurricanes in the West Coast and in Canada, there's fires, and obviously this global pandemic. So finding ground, I hope, to get a little more connected with our planet and in turn, more connected with everyone else too. And we'll start by bowing. I'm Sam. I use they and them pronouns. Now we'll bow in.
Onegaishimasu.
And throughout, I want to invite people to do what feels safe with their body. I'll try to give as many kind of levels and scaling as possible. And if you need any more like accessible movements, please just ask and I'll try to attend. And then pressing my armpits down into the mat, alternating. And try to continually connect your hands throughout. So as I switch, my hands are staying connected. And really extend through your chin. So even when I'm going up, my chin is going up, my head is not just going back. I'm stretching my entire neck. And press your knees out with your forearms. Great, and we'll start from here. Just another horse stand, just as we ended up. For years, I've been thinking about how the tatami and the earth under that is a friend and partner. So as we stand, I really want you to engage with the ground, so rather than just standing on top, press in and actually push your feet out. I feel my quads activating, I feel my lower back activating. Really hard to see, but it makes a big difference. And I'm pushing out through the edges of my feet, so I feel the ball of my foot engage and that crescent. This is going to be a little yucky, but that crescent all around the edge of my foot is where I feel. And play with the difference between having your entire lower body engaged versus just standing still. I feel much heavier and connected when I'm actually trying to rend the earth apart a little bit because I'm rooting. And it shouldn't be pushing, like I'm not shaking from it. I'm simply engaging. And sometimes it's really good to be rooted, but also you can get stuck. So when we move into Hamni, I want to take that same feeling by spreading and pushing apart and gripping with my feet. And I know it's hard to feel. That's why we have a weight. So please grab your weight. And this is heavier than you should have. This is a 35-pound kettlebell. And I also have my water bottle because I'm not ridiculous. And pro tip, this will get lighter as class goes on because I'll drink water. So as we come back to the stance, holding the weight between your legs with both hands should already help you feel where the edges of your feet are. And first, I want you to come up onto your toes. And if that's stable, that's great, but it should also feel less stable. Like you can stand on your toes, but it feels less stable. And sinking back to your whole foot. And then go into your heels. Even if you don't lift your toes up, even wiggling them is a really good cue. And shifting onto one leg, and the weight follows you. And shifting onto the other. Nice. And come back and find that grounded, rooted position again. This class is all about gravity, which is our connection to the earth. It's how we connect and engage. And we might as well make it a tool because there's nothing we can do about it. It is constant. So from here, just drawing up and feeling that connection and trying to keep it constant without disengaging, which is good because gravity is always acting upon us. And another portion, this is not just my lower half. As I'm holding, I don't want my upper body collapsed. Everything is rounded and I'm not actually engaging. Rather, my shoulders are down, but my back is also engaged. So not like this with my weight. Back is engaged. So as I sink, I feel everything from there. And now moving into a Hamni. If you can hold it in one hand, that's great. Or you can maintain in two. And shifting forward and back. And a weight will also keep you a little more honest because I want to move as efficiently as possible. So finding that path is made clearer with the use of the weight. Nice. Okay. And can everyone hold their weight in one hand? I'm just curious. If you can't, maybe find something else. I have another ball. So we were using the weight between our legs, and now we'll go to one side and in Hamni. And I just want you to touch your weight down to the ground and come back up, keeping everything engaged. If you need the support of your back leg to come down, come back up, that's okay. Go to the range of motion that feels good for you. If it's right here by your knee, that's okay. Just keep your shoulders engaged, or rather than rounding my back, my shoulders are still engaged. Again, extended, all the way down, back up, and feeling how that weight draws you down. Or with the toe touch to offer more support. You should also feel this in your core and your pelvis because you're keeping tension there. Good tension, not bad tension. So as you go, Before we were facing our weight with two hands. And so that is actually a little more difficult, for me at least. Now I want you to hold it in one hand, front foot, like a lot of Aikido. And my pelvis is going to face away on 90 degrees. So before it was closed, whereas this is open. And it actually takes less effort to reach the ground because my reach is extended when my body is not closed. So for a few seconds, please try between an open hip and a closed hip, and how that activates different parts of your body, right? So closed versus open. And if you need to keep your toe down for balance, that's fine. Takes less movement with an open hip. Continue. I'm just going to look at all you beautiful faces for a moment on gallery. Nice. I'm also curious about all your weight implements and what everyone's using. Nice job. Beautiful. Okay. Now, gotta switch back so I can actually see if you can see me. You. Okay. So now our weight's on the ground in front of us. Right. So first, I want you to try to grab your weight and bring it all the way around to over your head. And all the way around and back down. The other side, all the way around, so a full circle. All the way extended. That's hard. For me, that's hard. Because gravity is acting, has more to act upon when it's farther from my body. So now from the ground, I want you to keep your elbow down and platform like a waiter. So from here, my elbow's down and I lift, and then I extend straight over my head. And as I put it down, I just reverse. So from here, I'm sinking my hips under, straight up. Elbow down, hips as low as possible. Straight up. It's the path that your weight wants to take. I can drop mine, so when I drop it, if I can replicate that straight line down, I know I'm fighting against gravity as little as possible. Straight down. So even if you can't drop your weight, try to release it as much as possible so that you can feel the path it wants to take. And stay connected to what that path is. You can also notice I'm breathing out along with my weight as it drops. It's also really important for my levers to be balanced. So from here, I'm not trying to lift this, come back to center with one arm. As we realize, that's more difficult. So as I drop, I'm still rooted into the ground, pressing, and that maintains throughout the entire lift. So try to remain balanced with your weight in your feet. Okay, and this position overhead, I hope it looks familiar because that's the same position my arm wants to be in when I roll, right? Tricky, it's all related. So from here, that's the extended position, and the force you were exercising on the ball up, you want to maintain that pressure in your arm for your roll. So your weight being up, put your weight down, but don't change your arm. I would like you to come to the ground, please, and try to keep that same shape the entire time with a feeling of a weight on the top of your hand. So you're always pushing where it goes. And since I have a ball, I can actually show you what that looks like. So from here, it's the same, and I'm actually pushing my weight along. Back up. So there's always pressure, forward pressure. You just want to keep that feeling in your palm. So once again, I'm not collapsing my shoulder. Just like when I was holding the weight, I need to extend. My shoulders aren't down, they're up and back. And if you feel comfortable, you can push off for a roll. But your arm should never change. For now, for this exercise, your arm should still be in that Aiki straight, so a tiny bit bent, strong position. And continue your rolls. I'm just coming to look at you all. And if anyone has a question about these exercises, please put it in the chat and Brian will raise it to me and I'll try to answer it. Nice. So remembering what that weight felt like in your hand, keep pushing. Nice job. So we've talked about the arm. And now what I actually find that people have a really hard time with is their backs. So for a front roll, talked about the arm, the nice straight position. Now we'll talk about our back. I'm going to go back to the big scary weight. Okay, so we'll start on the ground and have our weight on our chest and just lay back. And first just feel what it is for that weight to be on your back, on your chest being pressed into the ground. You can feel really stuck. It can feel good to have that pressure on you. And trying to sit up. I can sit up, but it's difficult. But how did I do that? Rather than my shoulders being relaxed on the ground, I'm actually finding one point. So everything is working together and it's extended. I want as much surface area as I can on my back. And that means extending my shoulders up. So with your weight, even if it's small, just try to rock back and forth, and only one point of your back should be on the ground. So I don't want to be flat and lax. I want just one point of my shoulder on the ground at a time. And feel the difference if I'm just flat on my back. It's harder to roll back and forth, rather than I'm actually more wobbly. I can build up momentum if my shoulders are making my back a bowl for that surface area. I want that wobble. And leading that into egg rolls with your weight on your chest, because that will keep you honest. And so my back is a bowl. And once again, this is from, we watched my back before, everything's very upright. And now that weight helps me create that bowl. I want my entire back pushed out and shoulders down so that there's a lot of surface area. So continuing with egg rolls with your weight on your chest, make that bowl. And egg rolls, trying to make one point be on the ground. So one point is on the ground, but there's many points to reach. That's what will make your roll smooth. And if your roll is smooth, then it's less likely that you'll get hurt. So one point of strong contact and many points that take you on your journey. And so before, our weight was on our chest. Now we'll let it sit on our belly at our pelvis and feel how that's different. Feels much better for me, easier. Because my weight is at my center of gravity. I had to make it hard first so that you had that bowl in your shoulders and your back. So keep that, but continue with your weight at your pelvis. And now see if you can balance your weight without your arms, if that's possible. And try to do rolls and keep it with you. It's really hard, it rolls. And continue, I'm just coming to look. Nice job. Don't forget to continue with your back rounded and extended. Good. No matter how small or big it may be. Awesome. And so remembering the arm, if you want to have your weight and extend it, that's where your arm is. Remembering what our back is when we roll. So putting those two together now, from here, my arm, now my back has as much surface area as possible. Trying to make my roll as smooth and connect all those points, but tracking where that connection point is. And breathing out at the beginning of each roll. My breath matches what my body's doing. Because my breath helps shape the form my body can take. Arm and back. Arm and back with your weight, imagine that your pelvis. So as you go over that weight, sinking is what draws you forward. If safe for you, you can actually use your weight at your pelvis with your back arm. So you can feel what it is to be drawn down to the earth again. Continue. And I hope that your rolls are starting to feel a little more smooth, a little more connected and cooperative with the ground rather than a fight. Because there's another piece. So the next piece is that exercise that we were doing before from standing with right arm open and our closed hip, open, closed. So usually we're taught rolls forward, and that's rightly so. But I want to now open our hips, just like that beginning exercise, to open our hips, to find that contact with the ground sooner. So not everyone can reach the ground, and even here, if my leg is straight, that's not safe for me to reach the ground. So my front knee bends until I can reach the ground. And for me, I notice that I can reach the ground sooner with an open hip. So whereas before, straight, my entire torso has to be on my knee to reach. But if my hip is open, I can reach the ground. So from here, just sinking forward. Once again, our breath is matching. I'm breathing out. And bend your knee as much as you need to. Stop whenever you need to. If you can't reach the ground, switching sides. Harmony. Open hip. So open hip meaning my front is facing forward rather than down. And if you hold your weight at your pelvis with your other hand, you should feel the path that wants to take down. And when I have the weight, I can feel my feet in the ground better. So you can really notice and make sure you're pressing with your entire foot rather than coming up on your toes. With more weight, I can tell that that's not what I want to be doing. So I can make sure my entire foot is pressing down and into the ground. Nice. So that's the path forward, arm, back, and how we get to the ground. So once again, as you're comfortable, full roll. If you don't have the space or are not going to do a roll yet, you can do this from the ground as well. So from here, open hip, extending your arm, and just tipping. And that helps you keep the connection a little better. So now the closed hip, open hip, tipping. And if that is still a little too much, you can start from standing. Find your path down and just tip without rolling over. So without a roll, still find your path down. And my weight is on my toe, not my knee. So as I come down, my weight is on my toes. So my knee is safe and extend through. So folks are doing full rolls or a drill. And continue, just looking at people's screens. Nice. I usually use sound as a really good indicator when people roll. If you can hear their back hitting the ground or a lot of points, then it's not a smooth roll, right? But everyone's on mute, so I can't actually call anyone out on that. Nice job. I muted myself, that was automatic. Nice job. And if we come back just to Omni. And that feeling of the roll through our pinky as we move into EQ exercise. Remembering the feeling of our elbows staying close, how it's more powerful. And when I come forward, making sure my shoulders are activated. So not kind of go down and back, but really activated and round. So I hope that you're concentrating on the feelings that we just worked on in your feet, connecting with the ground and making sure your toes and your heels aren't coming off. Your arm is Aiki straight because you just worked on that with weight. So replicating that feeling and that shape. Good. Okay. And so that was EQ exercise. And now we'll go into some imagine technique as nage. So EQ from Shomen uchi. Shomen is a step in strike, so it's supposed to hit me right on the forehead. And EQ exercise is to protect me. So imagine that uke is hitting me with Shomen. I rise to meet it and extend the arm down. And from here, that weight that I was working on is centered over their arm. So Shomen, height, receive, step forward, and I want to feel that weight from my hips in front of me. So adding back in our weight from here. So the weight is the Shomen, it's coming to my forehead. And then when I receive, sinking. Stepping in, sinking. And so the ball represents the weight that I'm putting down on their arm. That should be connected with their body. Okay, so Shomen, down, and as I pin, I just need to follow the weight straight down. That'll show me the path that I want to do for a pin. Receive the weight, down, and then for the pin, I want to bring together and sink controlled. And I can press into my weight. Nice. Feel like I keep doing one side. Okay. Shomen, in, sinking with my weight, down. Once again, my arms are Aiki straight. So I'm not holding my weight up like this. They're down, relaxed, sinking. Shomen, forward. I just want to go where my weight went. Down. All right, this is different than an arm attached to a human, because a human has muscles and moves on their own. But this is a really good indicator to feel where weight wants to go. Because even when people are taking ukemi, they have weight. And so being sensitive to where that weight wants to go can help you manipulate it and direct it more. Okay, so a few more seconds. And continue. I'm just going to look at the screens. I hope other people are sweating. I'm sweating. And making sure that we're still rooted, pressing into the ground with every step and keeping as much of our foot connected with the earth as possible. Nice. So that is Shomanuchi Ikkyo as Nage. And now we're going to do a little Shomanuchi Ikkyo as Uke. Yeah, all you. So as Uke, that weight comes back to my center. So if you can hold it in one hand, as I do Shoman, from above my head, that same position, when we lifted, I want to feel where that weight wants to go through the edge of my hand. So from standing, weight is in our hand with our back foot. So when we step forward and let it drop, we can feel the path down. Okay, so weight is up in our back hand. As I step, I'm sinking and letting that weight fall in a controlled manner. Once again, weight is up and behind me, and it sinks. And so now 3 times without the weight. So once again, raising our hand, but with our elbow and hand close, sinking, and my hand and my center pull on each other to make sure that connection is strong. So just as I'm connected with the earth, my center is the center of my body, so it draws my hand back to it. So even as we start, arm close and up, sinking down, and as I sink, my feet are also connected with the ground. Up, extended over your head, sinking. And so I'm not using just my arm to pull down, I'm using the weight, feeling like the edge of my hand is extremely heavy, to cleave through and find my own center again. And don't take a short route and lift your arm backwards or in a way that doesn't really intentionally make sense and is working with gravity, with the ground. And also I'm lifting through my own line. That line right now is my back leg. So I'm not starting this forward. That feels less powerful. I'm starting this through the line of my back leg and then shifting. So once again, my arm raises through my back leg. And that's the line of my back. And then when I step and shift, it follows that same line to cut through. Okay, continue striking. I'll try to look at everyone to see where I should go next. The blade edge of your hand is heavy. Nice. And now try the difference between striking with an open hip and a closed hip, just like we did for the rolling. So whether you end with straight hips or whether you end with open hips. And just notice the differences in how it feels in your body. The sneaky thing is the open hip kind of turns into a yokomanuchi for your reach. Yeah, where a shoman is more closed hip, a little bit. Okay, beautiful strikes. So, even though we're striking all the way down and through, because that's, as uki, that's our intention. Open hip, that's not where I'm directing. So I want it to fall where I'm set. Catches our arm up here. So before practice, that's my full shomanuchi. But nage should catch my arm higher up. So what do I do from there though? Then it's good for my hips to be open and flexible as I turn. So from closed to opening your back hip to follow that movement. And we're back to that tipping with an open hip that we discovered before with our roll. So strike, imagine that nage catches, shifting our feet as we turn. And notice my arm is still extended, just like the rolls we did. Turning and lifting with that open hip. So the drill right now is strike, kaiten, turning our feet, and coming onto that open hip. Straight, solid, and we're moving with our arm. As nage moves it, if you can see my back foot is turning so that I can follow. So just strike and open hips. Strike, open hips. If you want to make this a little more difficult, you can use your weight again. From here up, strike. As it comes back, you notice you have to receive it more. Because it's difficult to lift this with a straight arm that feels really stuck. Rather, as I receive, okay, so now I want to bring my shoulder to the ground. And I do that with a weight by making sure I turn to keep my shoulder safe. Because if it reaches the ground, then it can't get pushed farther or is injured. So from here with the weight, as I turn, I want that shoulder to go into the ground first. And then I can lay the rest of my arm down. A little farther from my arm. From here, feeling where that weight is and wanting it to be directed in my shoulder. Because that keeps the rest of my arm safe. Once again, from here, I want to move my shoulder first. And I'm rotating. And just laying my body on the ground. So all together, as uke with the weight, that looks like from here, a shonen, receiving. I'm going to turn slightly so you can see, receiving, drawing down, and once again, that shoulder should be the thing that's going into the mat. So as I come down, my shoulder is first. And you can do that without the weight as well. But the important part is putting my shoulder down first. Okay. So I hope that inspired some thought, got some sweat moving. I wanted to leave the last 5 minutes for questions. And feel free to unmute yourself.
Sensei Sam, can you quickly just show us what you're doing with your, I find myself struggling when I get down here and I've got my legs and I feel like I start hopping to like adjust my feet out from underneath me.
Yeah, so definitely. That's that connection and playing with weight again. So how much weight is on your feet? From here, just getting comfortable. So my arm is out to the side in Aikido, but I'm going this angle so you can see everything's up. And then pushing out, but I'm not just pushing my feet because they get stuck in the mat. I'm putting my weight more on my shoulder so that my feet can slide out. Because a lot of times when someone puts you down for Aikido, you can't move your shoulder anymore, so your feet have to go out. And if you're so stuck, right, you saw my feet come off the ground that time, I just have to make sure my shoulder stays in place. So whatever it takes to get my feet out. And it's similar, that drill, I want as many points of connection from my torso all the way down to my toes, so I don't just flop. So getting comfortable with weight on your chest and sinking and adjusting so that you can go down smoothly. And if that is stepping your feet out in little itty bitty parts, that's fine. But so you need to be able to adjust the weight in your feet from a stationary position just by manipulating your body. And so that's just comes from control, how much weight I can put in my feet or move to different parts of my body. Hey.
I'm just wondering, Sam, when you're working with weights, how do you think of the weights working with a break fall? Like,
Ooh. Well, I want to keep the center of my weight like in my pelvis again. And for me, break falls and rolls should be, if not one and the same, a continuation. So I'm not doing things differently. The drill that we did, this one, if I keep the weight here and leave the weight on top of my body and having control to put that on top of my body so that I can know where I'm ending up. And that is right from a high fall two on top of my body. So I think the weight should stay in the same place as we drill and practice. And as you can move through the drills, if you can keep the weight there, then you can probably are ready for the next drill and you want to keep the weight in the same place. So change nothing. It just depends on your ability to do the next thing with that weight. And I think this is a really good indicator whether you can move on to the next thing or not. So change nothing, keep it in the same spot, and then try to do more things as safe for you.
great, thank you.
Sam Sensei, I have a question. I know I asked you this at women's camp, but I still am having a hard time with it. So
Yeah.
on my shoulders, my shoulder blades stick out like crazy. And
Yeah.
so when I'm trying to round my back to get that really round position, I find that I feel like I'm collapsing my front like that. Is that, is that what you're doing? I mean,
I think rather than going up and rounded, I would really like your shoulders to be down and rounded. So it feels more like I'm pressing my lats out, really low and rounded. Yeah, rather than up. I do feel like my shoulders and my collarbones are compromised. I don't want it to be up. I want it to be down and rounded. And so you're engaging the whole back. I hope that helps a little bit.
it does. Thank you. Because my collarbones, I feel them move when I do it the wrong way. Thank you.
And a lot of egg rolls with that deep rounded just to, and with weight so you can build up those muscles too. One more question? Okay. Or we'll bow out.
Does someone else have a question? Because I have another one.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, do you normally work out with weights, Sam? And what specific exercises do you do?
Yeah, I love weights. And in the pandemic, it's been really interesting when we weren't able to do in-person training. What felt closest to me was actually really heavy Olympic lifts, which are the snatch and the clean and jerk, because that weight of throwing someone is matched in those lifts, being able to move with my body. So, for example, clean is from here, and you catch it and stand, jerk is through. And that movement with my hips coming up from the bar, right here, that moment of contact and pressing up and catching and using my whole body, that's where I felt like I was using my hips to move mass and felt really connected. And that moment when a weight is coming off the ground, having that tense and not jerky, I find a lot of connection with Aikido. So I personally love Olympic lifting, and that's not for everyone, but weights are a really strong part in how I move. And personally, I see a lot of connection because there's only so many ways a body can move. So the most powerful and effective movements in weightlifting are the most powerful and effective movements in Aikido, because that's when we're drawing on most of our strength. Even if it's not tense, it's how to move effectively in our bodies, like any sports, how to do the most powerful movement. And so finding that in weightlifting and applying it to Aikido helps make my Aikido easier. And I think my Aikido informs my weightlifting. So doing it with barbells, ton of weight, that's one thing. But even just doing air squats and tracking how you get up and down, like every time we get up from a roll, it's essentially a lunge from here, standing up and wanting everything connected. So I'm not only using my front leg and hurting that knee, I want everything to be working together. So I think it's not as much weights, rather a fascination with like body mechanics and trying to figure out how I move best, which may not be the same as everyone, and trying more movements helps me hone in on what is most efficient and good for me. And Marcy, you had one more question?
I was hoping that you could demonstrate walking diagonally across your dojo with the weighted ball in your hand, doing shomenuchi strikes as you change hands, just so that I can see, because
Okay.
I was having trouble with that. I'd love to see it, please.
So starting my hand up, forward, and I just passed it. Up again, I passed it. So I just switched hands.
Okay, I guess I was trying to see the timing of the foot versus raising the hand and then cutting. As far as that's what I was trying to focus on.
My foot touches first, personally, because I want to be rooted in order to pull down, because everything is pulling towards that set point, and I need that root there to make that happen, rather than just, a shomenuchi isn't falling. So I'm not slamming and falling. I'm kind of scissoring with the weight of the ground. Rather than falling, it's drawing together. So I need that other point, because my hand and my point, my foot work in tandem. And I'm using my core. Yep. Okay, fix your gis. Let's line up and bow out. Right, don't worry about the good enough step.